Hello, this is Mr. Inadequate. I am playing Suzerain, episode 6. We're going to check and see if there's anything besides this. There's one there. Okay, let's see what this is. Vessard, United Cantana Embassy help protesters. Around midnight, Red Youth protesters clashed with young swords at the Vessard city center, resulting in many injuries. The counter protesters were cornered in front of the United Cantana Embassy after they were pushed back by the police. The embassy opened its doors and Red Youth members escaped inside. The police are still waiting outside the building for the return of Red Youth members. Uh-oh. We have problems right here in River City. Yeah, this situation is becoming almost untenable. I'm not sure what I can do. Okay, react to the unrest. A decision to address the instability of the nation. The political situation around the country has escalated. Chief strategist Lucien Galide has prepared several action plans that we can execute. What will we do to address the intensifying political climate? Call for restraint on national television, visit affected towns in person, label all protesters as traitors, expand the police by deploying all recruits in training, reject the plans. I'm going to go for call for restraint on national television. Read the report from Halsford. Arcasia develops first ICBM. Intelligence reports that Arcasia has successfully completed the Missile 4, an intercontinental ballistic missile which is at the estimated capability to accurately destroy targets at thousands of kilometers range. Arcasian missile capabilities have significantly, I can't read today, increased posing a threat to territories that are further away than western Maricopa. And end of the day at the Maroon Palace, office of the President of Swordsland, Maroon Palace. It was late in the evening. The Maroon Palace was finally getting somewhat quiet when I returned to my office at the top. I eagerly approached my chair and sprawled out on it. It had been an exhausting day, just like every day since I took office. Light a cigarette, pour some whiskey, lean back and relax, prepare to go home. I forced myself out of the chair to gather my jacket and briefcase. I really needed to make some time for my family. I quickly glanced out the window before leaving. Serge and the guards were outside by the main gate as usual. I heard a couple of knocks on the door. My secretary, Livia Suno, entered. Mr. President, Mr. Tusk is here to see you. You had a meeting with the Lotharberg spokesman. I am so sorry for not giving you proper notice. Don't worry about it. Thank you for your understanding. After a moment, Mr. Tusk swaggered in the room. I'd met Swordsland's most prominent businessman once or twice, but never alone. He had large jowls, blindingly shiny shoes, and the air of someone who was used to getting his way. Anything to drink, Mr. Tusk? Water? Whiskey? Walter. Cognac. Preferably from before you were born, sweetheart. Livia. I'll check the supply room. Livia backed out of the office, shooting me an apologetic look as she did so. Walter hung up his hat, which I could see was lined with mink. He fixed me with a long, hard stare, then broke into a toothy grin. Walter. Good evening, Mr. President. I am here to congratulate you. We both sat down. My business partners and I wish you a successful term as the leader of our nation. Get to the point, Mr. Tusk. Why are you really here? I'm choosing this one because I wanted to go home. I see that you're not very welcoming, Mr. President. I merely congratulated you. I see no reason to necessitate rudeness. Forgive me, I didn't want to be rude. Long day. No need to ask for forgiveness. You are the president after all. May I continue? Please. I'd like to build a profitable relationship between us. That being said, there are some concerns of mine and the people I represent. Yeah, sure there are. Which I would like to take this opportunity to clear up. The people you represent? You know that I represent the Lothar-Berg Group, Mr. President. But of course, these concerns are not limited to them. The ruined state of the economy in Suzerain has influenced everyone. The recession hit all of us hard. Walter pulled out a box of cigars from his jacket. I had these brought from Lesbia, the best cigars in the whole continent. Would you like to try one? Smoke a cigar. I grabbed one out of the pack. Walter lit up with his large engraved lighter. Now we are talking. A man who knows pleasure and business. Walter grabbed himself a cigar and lit it up as well. We looked out at the city scenery as we both puffed away. I heard that you purchased stock from Armadine Industries in Arcadia. Smart buy. They're developing new gadgets that are going to be profitable. Spend money to make money, they say. Let's see if it holds true. You'll be surprised at one can achieve given the resources in capitalism. Excuse me. I will buy a couple of thousand shares too to expand my portfolio. Hope the investments pay off for both of us, President. His eyes wandered away for a moment. You're having a good start to the term for sure besides the recent troubles. Glad that you have decided to promote the free market, which is the only thing that can get us out of this mess. Okay, we have choices here. We had nothing but trouble so far. The ability of the free market to evolve is hard to dispute. It is good that we think alike on the matter. I took favorably to my economic team's advice. You have talented economists like Mr. Hull in the cabinet, so you made the right choice. There are many other avenues where we could work together. He grinned. The highway investment was a good call, but there was more to gain in the high-speed rail, especially for business logistics. Okay. The Angland region was in dire need of investments. Our goal was to focus on the needs of the people, not businesses. The intention of the administration is to boost the economy, or I don't want to discuss our intentions to an outside. Disclose our intentions to outside. I'm going to go with one. The Angland region was in dire need of investments. Most important goal is to divert investments where most profits can be made for the Treasury. We can be close allies. The group can help you get Suzerain out of the recession, which will be the key problem to solve in your term, could even determine your re-election. Let's start with a gesture of goodwill. Soon the investment project contract will be awarded to one of the three main contenders. Uh-oh. He pulled a check out of his pocket and slid it towards me on the table. My personal bank details were listed on it with a deposit of 500,000 Sordish Ren ready to be transferred. This was 6 months of a president's salary. Am I playing Suzerain or Tropical? Okay, maybe both. Walter Tusk. If the contract is somehow awarded to Underhall Construction, they would not only work hard and deliver, but also do it on time. What do you think, Mr. Rain? Wouldn't that be good? He put his index finger on the check. There was a noise by the door. Livia Suna was standing there, holding a tray with a bottle and 2 glasses. I'm so sorry, Mr. Tusk, but all I could find was a 1942 Sevigny. I hope that's acceptable. She quickly put the tray on my desk and walked out. Tusk eyed her as she left. Remind me to visit your office more often. Now, where were we? Do we have a deal? Okay, choices. Indeed, Mr. Tusk, I'm looking forward to our future transactions. Take bribe. Not yet. We both know you can do better than that amount. No, I will make my own decision. Did you just try to bribe the president of Sortland? I refuse. Oh boy. No, I'll make my own decision. Walter sighed and pulled the check away, putting it in his pocket. You think this I was just another corrupt politician? If this is what you came here for, then we're done here. Thank you for the visit nonetheless. Be careful, Tusk. You'll have to make your deals in a prison cell. Thank you for the visit nonetheless. It was good to share opinions, and we will meet again in the future for sure. Oh, I almost forgot. Please say hello to Mr. Caranti for me. He smiled. Have a good evening, Mr. President. Walter stood up, grabbed his jacket, and made his way towards the door. He closed the door behind him. I gathered my things and prepared to finally head home. As I walked out, I noticed Livia still there, covering up her typewriter for the evening. If I may be so bold, Mr. President, did you accept his offer? Of course I didn't. How could you even ask me that? The other girls have told me about all kinds of dealings that went on during the Alfonso administration. I wasn't sure if you were that kind of president. I most certainly am not. She and I took a moment to look out over the lights of the city before heading to the elevators. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Wow. They're all exclamation points. Well, we'll do this one, and then that one. Finalization of the H3 highway contract. After driving through the cliffside roads, we arrived in Lenkirk. There, cheerful citizens greeted us, and the local government officials escorted us to the city hall. Here, a significant meeting about the H3 project would take place. Several construction companies sent their representatives to the city hall. Even though Gus Manger couldn't make the meeting, I had Simon Hall and Liz Graff by my side. Simon, besides starting our economic recovery, the travel time by road will drop by more than half, Mr. President. The project will improve the Angland region. I have lived with these people and seen them suffer. I trust your plans, Simon. I'm glad to hear that. We should be able to slow down the recession when we finish this project successfully. Lilius, positive financial outcomes are expected. According to my sources, this can lift many out of poverty in these areas. Excuse me while I drink. My lips are dry. A&W Root Beer, not sponsoring this video. Okay, what will it take to stop the recession? What kind of end results do we expect? Failure during this project is not an option. Do you need additional support? Not as of right now. However, things might come up if the project doesn't go according to plan. Thank you for the offer. Simon searched the documents he was holding and found the one he was looking for. I have the overview of the companies here. Simon handed the files over to me. Look at the files. I looked at the files. 3 corporations were listed. The Sorter State Corporation, Underhall Construction, and Taurus Holding. I reviewed them. I also took the liberty of asking the mayor of Artery to give his opinion on the matter, said Lilius. Which corporation should we talk about? We'll go with the Sorter State. The respective Sorter State Corporation, also known as the SEC, was founded in 1891. It is the main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services of our country. The SSC is one of the most trusted and honorable companies. They have served us a long time. I have worked with them on several occasions, said Lilius. It would fill your initial election progress of using a state-dominant planned economy to improve the bleak economic prospects. They have the experience and manpower to pull off a project like this. Lewis paused for a second. Secondly, they're the only company to work in the Angland region out of all three corporations. The outdated construction members, Simon said, that they use concern me. They are several decades behind. Okay. The lack of a modern attitude is disappointing. I don't agree with the negative statements for the SSC. The record clearly shows completed contracts with 1,000 employees who have more than 20 years' experience. I like the SSC, but I want to hear about the others. Underhaul Construction. I'm just going in order. The real estate and construction giant was founded in 1925. They expanded during the economic boom of the 30s. Picking this corporation would go against our planned economy policy. The CEO of Underhaul is Chris Shaw, the mayor of Conrad. He sold half his shares a few years ago. Lilius, I had to work with Underhaul Construction before in Halsert. They took several contracts for the Central State renovation and left much to be desired. The H3 project shouldn't be left to them. I would like to hear your thoughts, Simon. I think they've been doing relatively well in the private sector, where they are dominating the construction industry with successful projects. Nonetheless, they treated the workers below our working standards during the Halsert Central Station contract, which is troubling. Working conditions must be respected. This doesn't inspire confidence. I agree. The workers were undocumented, Agnolian, and Wessex immigrants with no papers, a clear violation of our laws. According to them, the reason of the bad labor conditions was because of the tight competition schedule, which still doesn't justify the situation. Simon, Underhaul has specifically mentioned their solid track record and highlighted the cost of the project would be more than expected for a project of this scale, but finished on time. Okay, Underhaul seems interesting, but let's see the others. Taurus Holding. Taurus Holding was founded in 1946 and is owned by the entrepreneur Gerald Weiss. It is a new holding company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology from Arcacia to reduce construction costs and prices. They are known to provide for their workers who are part of the labor union of Swordland. Lilas. There are other things Taurus does very well, like providing consultants for the state corporations, but I can't vouch for their infrastructure construction at all. Why should we pick Taurus? Taurus has completed fewer projects than the other companies, however, they are slightly faster and cheaper. It won several awards nationally for being one of the fastest growing and advanced companies. The innovative aspect is refreshing, especially if they can deliver. Lilius, they were only involved in smaller scale regional projects. This does improve their capabilities for large undertakings that are more complex. Simon, the project manager from Taurus Holding mentioned that they would be able to finish the project with the allocated funding. They are the only company who found the budget sufficient, making them a cheaper alternative. Taurus is definitely worth considering. Okay, now I gotta pick one, I suppose. It was time to make a decision about which company to award the H3 highway contract to. So this gives me a -1 government budget, as does Underhaul. I've settled on the SSC. Simon signed a certain section of the dossier and fixed his glasses. Very well, Mr. President. The contract will be awarded to the Sortish State Corporation. Lilius, very glad that you made this choice. I can tell from my experience you will be very satisfied with this corporation. Simon, the company will notify today and the construction Work will begin immediately after. I think we're off to a good start. My expectations for a grand opening ceremony are late next year. I better get back to work then, Lilia said. Thank you. This concludes this meeting. Meeting ended and we spent the remainder of the day attending events in Linkirk. It was nice to enjoy the natural beauty of angling and eat some good fish. Okay, now we're... What's this? Local police working with nationalists in Enrica. One of our agents, acting as a young swords member, had an encounter with two members of the local police force in Enrica, Alson Bolar and Vic Nezik. I can't pronounce that. According to the report, the policeman tried to bribe the agent to burn down a store that belongs to a known Communist Party member and to instigate further violence. We have detained the policeman on charges of corruption. Okay. Meeting with Marcel Carante, presidential state car, road to Conrad. We were headed to the meeting location set by Marcel Carante. The motorcade was made of the most confidential and trustworthy team. After a few hours of driving along River Esco, we took a turn before entering Conrad. The darkness started setting in as we drove up to a hill. Where are we, Serge? We are nearing the HOS Country Club, Mr. President. We'll be there shortly. We arrived and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by lesbian, not lesbian, architecture, was lit from all sides. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Peter Vectorn and Lucien Galad. Peter, I hope the journey was comfortable. The location is very remote indeed. Anything to keep me away from home. It wasn't bad. I can't think. Okay. Wasn't bad. I'm looking forward to this meeting. I'm sure it'll be worth our time. He is a Carante after all. Let's get personal. Let's, said Peter. Enter the building. We entered the main building. After opening the marble engraved wooden door, we were greeted by two tall women. The receptionist led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside at the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a good look at us both. He was really a handsome man with fair hair. He walked towards me with his hand reached out for a handshake. Reach out for a handshake. I shook his hand. He had a firm grip. Lucien, it is such a pleasure to meet you in person, Mr. Conte. I appreciate your efforts to reach out for a mutually beneficial friendship. Peter, thanks for hosting us. I admired your father very much. May he rest in peace. Marcel, welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Vice President. He was indeed a great man. Please accept our condolences. We are saddened. He would have been very happy to hear this from you, Mr. President, said Marcel. It is time to look forward. Let us talk about our bright future. Let's have a seat. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat down around the gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. I'm glad you and your family were unharmed at the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country when it became too dangerous in Conrad. They were startled, but the important thing is that they're safe and sound. Of course, that is all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We have enough of that. Well, I am known to be a straightforward person, so let me get to the point without wasting your valuable time. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what you have done within the party. Marcel started to look at one of the paintings on the wall. Look at the painting. I observed the painting. The famous piece depicted a giant sleeping beneath a village. The trees, rivers, and hills were all part of the giant's body. Its eyes were two caves looking up at the people. It showed daylight at the far left and nighttime at the far right. The giant seemed to be watching the village. It was totally unbeknownst to the villagers. Marcel pointed his finger at me. You said we will transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate has a way of doing things and I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. Cooperate? You might have people's support now, Mr. President, but what happens when you make mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. Peter, what is that supposed to mean? Let's hear his point, Miss Vice President, Lucien said. Being a president in this country means having many enemies, enemies that would resort to anything to bring you down, said Marcel. Let's say these enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. These would be destructive when they were released, if they were released. Continue. Assume that the articles would actually protect your integrity no matter what. Try to imagine how up to 5 million people our reach will not lose faith in you. Let's hear your offer. I want two things, Mr. President. Number one is a guarantee from you that the Rain administration won't meddle in HOS affairs no matter what happens. Number two is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you first, and I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. It is an interesting proposal. Not just interesting, but necessary. You surely know this is a win-win situation. The media will be on your side, strengthening your position. It will also protect my business operations throughout the changes this country will see. What do you think about this, Lucien? Lucien leaned my ears and whispered, Lucien, I think it is a good deal. He is right. We will need the media support. With his newspapers and channels on our side, we can dodge a lot of bullets. The one thing that bothers me, though, is his favor request. We do not know what it is, and he could ask for something that could point fingers at us. Marcel interrupted us. So, do we have a deal? We need the media. We have a deal. Happy to hear that. You can contact me personally through this number. As soon as you know that a story against you will break, please call me and it will be taken care of. Hope you will uphold your end of the bargain as well. A deal is a deal. It will be upheld. A man of his word, excellent. We'll meet again. Goodbye. Thank you for your time, Mr. Cranti. Oh, I got an achievement, an offer you cannot refuse. Return to Halsford. We did so. Okay, now, it's going to be a slightly long, I think, episode. How many of these do we have? Okay, economic relief plan. With the assistance of the National Business Council and the Central Bank, Simon Hole put forward a countrywide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships that are being felt. We can either provide stimulus checks for people in need or bail out businesses under serious financial strain or decide not to approve the plan. Right now, we're going to go with the businesses. Kasser Kibner demands emergency to be called. The leader of NFP, Kasaro Kibner, has demanded an emergency be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. He stated that without a declaration of emergency, Sorlin would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. I guess we're going down here. Funeral of Bernard Circus. Oh. The death of Bernard Circus has shocked the country, and his funeral will be held in Dare among a large crowd of sympathizers. Circus was not only a communist poet, but also an elected MP that had a voice. A state funeral has been organized to honor him. The question is whether the president and the administration will attend the funeral or not. Well, here's my reason. An elected MP that had a voice. Attend the funeral. Just making sure that we're covering everything. What's this one? Situation report from Bell. Sorry for the coughing. The Ministry of Defense reports that the situation along the border is getting tense. Rumberg's Southern Army was sighted training close to our borders. It did not respond after we issued a radio message. The Chief of the Armed Forces, General Kruger, reports to have increased patrolling duties along the northern border to signal readiness. Okay, back to the Capitol. Oh, not the Capitol. There. Dark clouds, this is the funeral. Dark clouds were looming over there. They looked dawning as our convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. It looked like it was going to rain. Certainly fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, Bernard Circus's passing maintained its media traction, and all of Sortland was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech today. Serge, sir, we have arrived. Raindrops were running down the car window when Serge opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. As soon as I got out, flashes from the cameras blinded me. Thank you. It is my duty, sir. He silently started following me while holding the umbrella. Peter and Carl exited from their own cars in the economy. They made their way over to me. Peter, Anton, Carl, Mr. President. Carl, I just wanted to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secured completely. There is no one getting in or out without our knowledge. Good work. Thank you, Carl. Carl bowed his head with respect. Peter, good. If anything happens to Anton, you'll have to answer to the First Lady. Peter, and trust me, Carl, you don't want that. Peter let out a laugh which drew some attention from bereaved attendees. Gestured Peter to lower his voice. You were right, sorry. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. Carl, we have a small problem, sir. A few, 5 to be exact, Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently said they wish to pay their respects to their fallen comrade. Should we let them in? Do you think they pose a security threat? No, they were thoroughly searched. It looks like they really are here to attend the funeral. Let them in, but put a few guards on them to be safe. As you command, says Carl. Let's head over. They're about to start, said Peter. We walked towards the crowd, circled around the grave. Everyone in attendance was wearing black and mourning. The rain started pouring heavily. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all, a cold, unforgiving sadness. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter who looked at me. She reminded me of Diana. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. I felt like I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get that daughter's eyes out of my head. Today, we are mourning Bernard Circus, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant of this country. Towards the back of the crowd, I spotted the members of the Red Youth wearing red shirts and black bands of mourning on their arms. They seemed ruly and were respectively bowing their heads. Sorry, the word ruly in that context confused me a little bit. It's the opposite of unruly, I guess. There was complete silence except for the sound of raindrops. Okay, now what do I say next? This is a great loss for us all. I will confess that I disagreed with Bernard Circus almost entirely, but doesn't mean that he deserved this. Our country can be a better place. Regardless of his ideology, this was a heinous act made towards a good man. We must end this cycle of violence. He was a true comrade and fought what he believed in, his ideal vision of Sutherland in every step of his life. I'm going to go with 3. Regardless of his ideology, this was a heinous act made towards a good man. We must end the cycle of violence. Okay, I can choose. We will make sure that unfortunate events such as these will never happen again. Empty promise. Sorry, I'm not going to make it. Circus had a dream of a unified Sutherland. In these next months, we need to fulfill his dream and band together. 3. I interpret this attack as an attack against Sutherland and by extension against me personally. 4. I promise you this, the blood of Bernard will not remain in the sacred ground. I don't know what that means. It can be misinterpreted. It's either 2 or 3, and I'm going to go with 2. Circus had a dream of unified Sutherland. In these next months, we need to fulfill his dream and band together. Okay. 1. Let us all mourn the passing of Bernard Circus and remember him well. 2. But hatred begets hatred. There is only one way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. 3. The tears of the family left behind have a price that needs to be paid. I'm going to go 2. But hatred begets hatred. There is only one way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. I think this would be nice. I would like to now recite a part from one of the poems he left us. So I can choose. Our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. Or we rise towards the sun. Those who died fighting. They are now buried in the sun. No need to mourn. There is a raid to the sun. 3. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. I'm going to go with 1. Our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. A moment of silence, please. During the silence, all that were heard were the ravens. Some attendees started clapping, some crying. The coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers. After a couple of minutes, Bernard Circus was with the soil no more. As we bid farewell to Bernard, I want to close with the words every sword lives by. A Morgna West Corps. Everyone replied, Victor insista, victory is close. With a pause, I stepped down from the podium. It was time to leave. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we dispersed. On my way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Diana, Monica, and Frank still look the same way if something happened to me? Peter put his hand on my shoulder. That was a good speech. I sensed only respect from his voice. I'm going to nod on this one. Come on, it's time to go. We've got work to do. He was right. We had work to do, so much more to do. I realized that the rain had stopped and I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. And this is Mr. Inadequate. I am playing Suzerain. This has been episode 6. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in episode 7.